Hey, folks. I know you could be listening to one of a million different podcasts right now, and I am super grateful you picked this one. Welcome to The Human Show. I'm your host, Trish, a holistic life coach and a mom navigating this complex world of human emotions. Here, we will share stories, insights, research, and information to help you step into the most true version of yourself so you can be a happy human. Now let's get into it. Hey folks, thanks for being here. I am excited to have a super cool guest joining me again. Great friend and a great coach and just a really cool person. And I'm happy to have her back. Thanks for joining me again, Jill Vyn.
I am so happy to be here. I always look forward to our conversations. So thank you for inviting me.
Yeah, I appreciate you making the time. As we all have our ever-evolving bio, I'd love for you to share what you want people to know about you today.
Yes, so I was prepared for this question. I was so prepared. And it's interesting that this is now my third time in conversation with you, and I have been evolving. And through this evolution, I am solidifying more of my professional bio. And it's like I had to let go of the professional bio to be okay with who I am without my doing, and without all titles. And then through that process, I've come to something new, and I wrote it down. So if it feels a little red, it is because I'm embodying this. Like, this is where I've come to after a number of months of personal growth and my own transformation. So I am claiming, so this is what I'm claiming today, Trish. I'm an empowerment coach that helps high achieving women, professionals, and entrepreneurs break through self-doubt, shift their mindset, and step into a soul aligned life. By integrating mindset transformation, inner child work, energy practices, and deep healing, I help clients release limiting beliefs and unlock their full potential. This transformative process empowers them to confidently create a life that feels authentic, fulfilling, and aligned with their true purpose.
Woo! I mean, who wouldn't want to hire you after that? I don't know.
I don't know, but it will get easier and easier, right? When we claim a bio, and it's coming from a place of authenticity, but the words are, I'm claiming them, I'm owning them. But honestly, it's what I understand is I believe in people. I believe we all have magic within us. And we all have lived experiences that have, for better or worse, have led us on a path that's been difficult and beautiful. And we all have potential for transformation to become, if we're not already, the person that we're meant to be. And it's through my own healing journey that I know this is possible. And with helping other clients through theirs, that I know this is possible. And so I feel like I'm in this moment arrived where I've been on a journey to become. And then it's okay, from here, where are we going? What are we offering? How can I be part of other people's journey to, change the way they experience themselves and how they show up in the world?
Yeah, I love the statement, I have arrived. I feel like there's so much power in that, and there is so much growth and stability and confidence and energy even. And you said that the bio that you wrote for right now, that you read, you said you want to embody those words. And I think I think it's really important that you did read them, because I believe there's a lot of power in hearing your words. Like, if you have affirmations, if you have intentions, it's really powerful to say them out loud so you can hear them. And there's like a whole nother energy that comes forth versus just reading them silently. You know what I mean?
I do know what you mean. And when you read things, at least for me, when I read something and it doesn't feel true, I'll feel that in my body. And so when I read this today, while I, stumbled over a couple words, and maybe there's something there, I can go back and listen to, but everything felt true, fully true in my body. Like I can say this out loud and I can say this with strength in my voice.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point because I've had that experience before where I've said something out loud and I felt this resistance sort of in my body. Usually it's in my chest. And it could mean a couple things. It could mean that it's not true. It could also mean that you haven't accepted that and you're afraid of it. I did mirror work before and every once in a while, thank you, Louise Hay. And there was something I said, I think it was, saying I love you in the mirror, like, it's no big deal. I can do that, no big deal. But when I said I approve of you, there was this weird resistance. And I was like, oh, that's weird. So it was really interesting to see just like that one word, there was a difference. So, and it brings up self awareness, like feeling that resistance and just noticing it. Okay, what does that mean? Something to look at there. I haven't stepped into that truth yet.
And what you just modeled right there, Trish, is without judgment. It's something to look at there. I'm curious about this. Wow, I noticed this about me, but I didn't hear any twinge of, oh, I'm not, judgment for yourself.
Yeah. Yeah. Thanks for that reflection. It's something that is a regular practice, something that we help our clients to learn is to release the judgment of self. There's plenty of judgment out there from all different directions, right? It's really important to let it go when it comes to ourselves.
And that is why I love coming back and talking with you, is because I believe you hold so much beautiful judgment-free space for me personally, as I've been sharing like vulnerably sometimes what I'm navigating. And I just keep coming back to wanting to be in your energy, in your space. So
thank you for that. That means a lot. I appreciate it. All right, you want to get into today's topic? Because I'm excited about it.
I do.
All right, so today we're talking about connections. And Jill and I had a conversation recently, and I was so interested in what she's doing right now. So, Jill, tell us about this challenge that you've created for yourself.
Yeah. So it's a bit of a connection challenge. I'm going to tell you what it is, and then I'm going to go back and maybe give you some background of how I got to this place. So I am committed to making 100 connections, and it was in roughly over 90 days. I said 90 days, but then I'm like, well, I'm just going to make it to my birthday. So that added like 6 days. So maybe 96 days. And it was motivated because, as I've talked previously, there's the self-doubt as I'm growing and creating a coaching business and figuring out where my focus is. So a month, 2 months ago, I wouldn't have been able to read that bio. I wouldn't have that same one. It's different. I haven't known who in my heart, who I really want to connect with. And so, but I was just in this busy work. That makes sense, where you just feel like you got to keep doing and pushing and trying, and feeling isolated because I'm spending so much time behind my computer in my house, and I have a few coaching clients, but not the wait list that I'm intending and wanting to have in the future, and or next week. I don't know when it's going to happen, right? So I went back to what worked for the nonprofit organization that I co-founded and co-directed starting in 2014. And that's something I've talked about on previous episodes with you. So I won't go into so much detail, but that my time with the organization ended last August, in the beginning, August 5 to be exact, of 2024. So, and it was really difficult. It was this like ego death of like, who am I? And that's why the evolving bio became something supportive to me, that who am I when I don't have this title anymore, when I'm not creating programming and putting myself out there in that capacity. And so I have been really hard on myself for a while, of, gosh, what did you do that the organization, which is now on the verge of dissolving, what are all the ways that you messed up, Jill, right? And we can be so hard on ourselves. And I can easily identify all the ways that I could have done better. But I wasn't spending as much time thinking about all the ways that I was successful, all the ways that my uniqueness showed up in this collaborative development of an organization that's had an impact and what I'm anticipating ripples that are going to continue for years to come. And it was when I would go back to those types of conversations, which, that's part of the healing process. What went well? And at the core of everything we did was developing relationships just for the sake of developing them. Yes, in the container of we're creating and growing an organization, right? So within this, like there's some boundaries to this, but ultimately we'd show up at meetings with potential new collaborators, artists, people who are of interest, like just for the sake, because we don't know today when we meet whether this relationship's going to grow into something in a year, 2 years, 10 years, or maybe tomorrow. And so I realized that felt magical for me. And it felt freeing to let go of specific expectations when I connect with people. And I wanted that fun and that freeing and the connections and the relationships and the magic that may or may not come from them, which it's going to somehow, right? I wanted that again because that worked and it felt good and it feels easy. So learning to put things down that are hard, like cold calling and trying to find clients for me was like, no, I know that this is going to happen through referrals. I know that my business practice and it's going to happen through relationships and people saying, wow, I have had a profound shift in my life. You've got to know Jill. So I leaned into what worked for me and I leaned into what lit me up.
Yeah. So I love how you said that you leaned in and this is something that lights you up. So, I mean, there's some really great awareness there is recognizing, oh, this is something that lights me up. Let me do more of that. Let me make more of that in my life. And when you do that, I feel like there's only positive things that are going to come from that. And it might not be immediate. It might not be the next day. It could be this ripple effect. And it could be weeks from now, something comes back to you as a result of a connection you made yesterday, And I just love how you're leaning into this and you recognize that connection is something that works for you in creating all kinds of things. Connection is what works for you. And you leaned in and you're creating more of it. So where are you in your 96 days?
Yeah, I guess I let's see. I did the math the other day. So it started in the beginning of February. So I'm about a month in. And
Okay.
I actually initially called it 100 contacts. And I shifted it to 100 connections. And I shifted that language is so important to me. So I shifted that language because 100 contacts means, like, to me in my mind, was 100 new people. But after like one person or two people, I realized, oh, wait, I'm planning to connect with them again in a month. Or like we had a conversation. And so guess what? Today's podcast interview counts as a connection. Because for me, it shifted from this, 100, which was a number. I mean, it came in my mind. It was like, well, how about fewer? Nope. I had the strong voice that said, nope, it's 100. And so I'm like, okay, it's 100. Fine. It's 100. And then it was like, but it's about deep connection. And not everyone I connect with is going to lead to a deep connection. But if I had a conversation with you, Trish, like a month ago, and I was like, oh, I got to get in my next 100. I can't spend my time with Trish again in a month. Well, then I'm missing the point of this. I don't know. It's been a gift to me, actually, like this gift of an idea. And so let me say I am roughly, today is 28.
Today's like day 28.
No, well, probably roughly day 28. And this
And
conversation,
connection
I
28.
believe, is my 28th connection.
Wow, that's so cool. So I love how you said that, there's power in language and then there's energy in words, I think. So when you said contacts what came to me was a list of names. And when you say connection, there's a whole different energy there. And it's so much more meaningful connection than contact. And that's for me. It be different for you, it could be different for someone else. But when I hear contact, I picture a list of names on a page, and it doesn't feel like anything beyond that. Connection feels like it's limitless.
Contact for me started right. I mean, I started with names on a page. I have a spreadsheet. I'm tracking because that's my accountability, to say, where am I? And there's a few pieces that fall into place with this. So this is just how I've chosen to do it, right? Maybe it works for someone else. But my goal was to get myself out there. My goal was to reconnect with people that I really care about and push me to reach out, because I knew at some point there's going to be people I don't know. I'm going to have to reach out, to find, to search, to create opportunities to meet new people. That's why that 100 is important, because it stretches me beyond who I might originally just be able to list. I don't have 100 names yet on my list, but it got me to think, who are the people that I really already enjoy being with? And then it got me to say, okay, that's transactional. That's where I think contact feels transactional. Connection, as soon as I got into it, I was like, oh, I have follow-up meetings. I have excitement from getting to know this person. I want to get to know them better. And so that's where this shift to connection. And I think that's what you're talking about, is that from transaction to this authentic relationship building.
Yeah, for sure. And that kind of goes into the next point I wanted to talk about, is how there are different types of connections. And we could say to someone, how many connections do you have in a day? And they might be like, oh, I have like 20, because, the nature of their job might be that they're talking to a lot of people. And if you think about it, there are a lot of connections that we make on a daily basis. And I would call a lot of them functional, because we're trying to get a task done. Like maybe we're calling someone to order dinner. Maybe we're telling the person in the next office, you need this task done by this time. There's all these kind of things that we do. And I guess transactional is another way to say it too. And we have to do those. We have to do those to be able to function, to be able to, for things to keep going in our world. So those are all important connections. What I think is interesting is now talking about this other level of connection where, the way I see it, these connections you're making are for the purpose of connection. In other words, you're not sure what's going to come out of a conversation you have with someone today. And that's okay. You're connecting for the purpose of connection, and that leaves it open for all kinds of possibilities, which I think is so cool.
Yeah, it does. It does. And I will share a little bit of the magic that's
awesome.
been happening. I think things were in the works before I even made this commitment. So I have someone who I have as a client. And when I have clients, they're relationships that I invest in, and they become relationships beyond the one time a week or twice a month that I meet them. They become relationships where I get texts that say, gosh, this just happened and it's so exciting in my life. Like I want to hear how my clients are doing in between the sessions, and also getting the text like, I'm having a tough day. So I hear both of those. So in doing this and building my relationships with my clients beyond the hour that I spend with them, I do believe that it creates this where I become on their mind a little bit in an interesting way. And one of my clients specifically, she is an entrepreneur. She gets it. Like, she knows what it takes to grow and to develop something and to put yourself out there. And so she said, there's this local event happening within the arts community, which is where I was situated before. I think you should pitch a workshop. Okay. Thank you. Thank you for thinking of me, and I'm going to do it. And so I pitched a workshop from my perspective as a coach now, where in the past I've presented at the same event as a co-director of a nonprofit organization. So similar people who I know, but coming from a different perspective, and it just felt right. So I'm like, wow, thank you. Thank you so much. Right. So this was before this connection plan. And so by doing that, I pitched an idea. It wasn't fully formed, but I pitched an idea, And what did I get back but an email from the organizing group who knows me and says, you pitched something that is so familiar and similar to this other person. I want to match you up. So we met and I went in. By this time, by the time I met with the person, I was already starting my 100 connections. And I'm like, wow, I just got a new connection. I'm going to go in and I'm going to, like surrender to the magic of what this is and see if there's something here for us. It was magic, Trish. We met and within minutes, when you meet someone, you're like, oh, this is so good. We're going to have so much fun. Right. And so I got to know her. I got to work with her in this capacity, doing something that it was pushing me out of my comfort zone a little bit, right? Getting me out into the world. And now I had a partner that I was co-facilitating a workshop with. And it ended up that we have met multiple times in the planning of this, also gotten to know each other and realize, wow, we're both on our own personal journeys. And there's so much alignment between the two of us, like in synergy. And that's magic to me. And so I had this opportunity. Well, I didn't know at the time, but now I'm like, wow, this is how I define connection. Like, I don't know how much time I'm going to spend with this individual. I don't know if we're going to present again, which is something we're like, wow, let's dream about this. Maybe we will. Maybe it will turn into something, but I've let go of that as well because I got so much more out of it. I met someone that I wouldn't have met before. And because I was, in my mind, I'm like all focused on connection. How do I deepen this connection with this person that I'm really fond of? And so that's just one example. I met with someone else who we've met over the years, and I sit down with her and she's got a very stressful job right now. And the amount of stress that she emanated in this coffee date, which we've had many times over the years, it took on a different meaning for me. Because now I'm a coach and I'm showing up as a friend. And this is someone I've known, over 10 years now. And we start to talk about what's going on for her. And she just says, I don't know her exact words, but basically she invited me to support her. And so I've had a couple meetings like this, coffee dates, Zoom calls, where I'm meeting with someone. And because of my skills as a coach, and the relationship I have or am building, there's a level of trust that I can shift easily with boundaries to be a supportive coach. Like I kind of put on my coaching hat. And this has been like this beautiful opportunity for me to learn how to support people with the skills I have in the moment without necessarily going super deep. Like in person, I'm not going to be doing inner child work when we're in a coffee shop, but I have the skills. And what I'm learning is this is giving me the opportunity to develop those even more. Like what are the tools that I can offer and how can I hold space and offer an experience for someone sitting in front of me when there's a lot of activity around us. And I've also met with people who I'm just getting to know, and they'll say something because we're sharing about our experiences in building a business or what's coming up for us. And I'll be like, would you like some support around that? And then I'll end up on a Zoom call offering a mini 15-minute session. And they're like, wow, this is amazing. I was blocked by something and you supported me in this. And I'm like, wow, this is amazing. Like you are allowing me to support you because I know it's trust. To be able to trust someone, to allow them to connect with your subconscious is a huge level of trust. And to be able to know which conversations and which humans that I'm connecting with, where that's appropriate and where it's not, if that makes sense. So it's like helping me diversify and become more aware of who I connect with and who will be the best fit for a client in the future, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I love this. As you were talking, I thought, I'm so glad that you did not limit yourself in this challenge by saying, you can only count a connection one time. Because every time we're changing every day. So every time you connect with someone, you're different, they're different. You both are showing up in different ways. It's a totally new connection. Whether you've chatted with this person 2 times or 20 times, every time is different. So, by not limiting yourself there, you're allowing yourself to create deeper connections and also just allow for new possibilities. And, I love how this whole situation that came up with the workshop, someone that suggested, hey, pitch a workshop. And these are people that you've been in contact with before. These are people that you interacted with, but you were in a different place. And now you're connecting with all of these people in a completely different way. And it's creating different opportunities. And I just want to emphasize this awareness around connections being new every time.
And you know what, Trish, that's so true is I'm letting go. I love that you're putting into words what's happening and you're reflecting back, is because I am letting go. Every time I'm letting go of the expectation of how the conversation's going to go. I'm letting go of who I was in the last conversation to be open to what this conversation is. I prepare emotionally for conversations as if I'm preparing for a coaching session where I'm tuning into myself. I'm being grounded. I'm allowing for openness, and that's me being different. I never showed up in a conversation like that before. Like, here, let me really situate. But how can I like clean my energy to best honor whatever's going to show up in the conversation with the person today? And so that's really been beautiful as well. And I do find ways to take connections that I didn't initially think were going to be something that I would add to my list. And I'll be like, oh, wow, the conversation just shifted. Ooh, I get to add them to my list. So there is a little bit fun in this because I was supporting someone, and in that conversation, she's like, oh, I have some ideas where maybe this would fit what you offer, and this experience I have might fit really well with this retreat. Like, I didn't expect that. And so what I'm also learning is by having so many and putting your energy into the world and having these relationships and trusting that they may be a one and done or they may lead to something else, I'm just letting go in a way that is what I've learned over my life, is every time I let go, more magic happens.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. So, what I hear coming out of this is that you're letting go of expectations. And I think that's a really big part of making meaningful connections, is letting go of expectations. And, you also talked about how you prepare for conversations. And I want to sort of highlight here that there's a big difference between preparation and expectation. And you can prepare for conversations. You can, whether it's personal or professional, if you're going in to talk to your manager, you want to prepare. You want to make sure you know all the information. You want to make sure you honor your boundaries. You want to make sure you speak your voice. And I guess that goes for personal things too. You want to make sure you honor your boundaries and protect your energy, and you prepare for conversations. But if you also have expectations, then if that connection doesn't go the way you expected, now you're looking at that connection as not productive or negative, which is then you're missing out on an opportunity here. So I think when you set expectations for connections, you're really limiting yourself. You set a limit on it by putting expectation on it. You're really preventing yourself from experiencing who knows what, all kinds of different things.
You can have an agenda. It becomes, you have more of an agenda.
Yeah, but then you're like I said, you're limiting yourself. I mean, that's really the best way I can say it, is you're limiting yourself. So when you go in to a conversation, a situation, a connection, being prepared, I think, is really important. Letting go of expectations is also really important, because then you open yourself up for anything to happen. And like you said, you surrender to the magic, and it keeps showing up. So when you surrender, you're allowing for anything to come to you.
Yeah. And there's some inner work being done too. In order to reach out, you have to know you're worthy of connecting with. And so I have a few columns. It's a spreadsheet. And in addition to a name and email address and when I meet, I have meeting notes, because I'm also building a business, or I keep watching that word too, because build to me is effort and I'm growing a business. So I'll have notes but they're notes about who the person is, what's important to them, what came out of this. I have a column that says my personal realization and truth. And I'm writing down things that are affirming where I am and also pointing out maybe possible work for me. And here I'm just reading one that says, I fall into comparison very easily. Comparison has never gotten me anywhere in life, except a lot of pain. So it's these awarenesses and what are truths and what are opportunities. So then I'll have follow up. And some of the follow up for me is journal around this. Some of the follow up is reach out to them in a month. Here I have a follow up is lead confidently and authentically during Friday's workshop. Right. So it's notes to me internally so I can continue to support my growth, and it's action for the future. Like follow up with this person. You just had a great conversation. Follow up with them, see if they want to meet again. So I'm built into my process is awareness and accountability and reflection.
Yeah, I think it's really great that you take those notes afterwards, and they serve as points of reflection, and then they also serve as points of action moving forward. So I think that's really important. It makes these connections and this whole challenge even so much more powerful and so much more important for your growth. The fact that you are sort of documenting it, but also it helps you remember things and remember points about the connection. Because I know for myself, like if I talk to 3 different people today, if I don't jot something down about it at the end of the day, I'm going to forget most of it. And that's just like anything that happens in my day. So I think it's really important and effective. That's an effective way to hang on to those things and make sure that you can learn and grow from them, because you're kind of locking them in, these little nuggets that you're like gaining from each of these connections, and then using them to kind of propel you forward. And they may become important factors in other connections that you make.
Yeah. And what I'm also learning is that I don't have to have a connection with everyone. I don't have to be liked by everyone. I don't have to be someone who they're going to want to meet with again. And that's something that I'm navigating as well. Because I know there's people where, oh, wow, that's immediate. And then I meet with someone else and I'm like, well, I don't really like how I showed up in that conversation. Doesn't mean I don't respect them. It just means I don't believe either of us are going to invest more in this relationship.
Right. There are some connections that just aren't a good fit. And it's not personal and it's not judgmental, but for the two of you, it's not going to serve you both. So, it is important to recognize that and drop the judgment. Just be like, okay, this isn't a good fit. Maybe 6 months from now, I could connect with this person and maybe it could be a good fit. But right now, it's not a good fit. There's no judgment. Just move on.
Yeah.
And before I forget. Who said that? 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 Who said that?
So it's by Neville Goddard. And the quote is, "You are already that which you want to be, and your refusal to believe it is the only reason you do not see it."
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, Neville Goddard is cool. I learned about him via Wayne Dyer because I've read a lot of Wayne Dyer. Okay, so here's mine. The meeting of 2 personalities is like the contact of 2 chemical substances. If there is any reaction, both are transformed. And that's Carl Jung. I thought that was so cool for today.
Oh, so fitting. I love that. Yes,
Yeah.
I love that.
Okay, before we are out of time, I wanted to chat about the importance of making connections that are more than just functional connections. Because, like I said, we all make connections like every day just to function and get through our life. And we could connect with 20 people a day, 5 days a week, and go home at the end of the day and feel terribly lonely. And I think there's a lot of loneliness in the world. And I'd like to talk about how meaningful connections can have an impact on that. and how it's really important to recognize the difference between just, let's say, making contact. As we talk about contacts, maybe it's easier if we say it that way. There's a difference between making contacts and actually experiencing connections, and how that really changes our human experience. So
Yeah.
what are your thoughts? What are your thoughts on that? The importance of connection.
Well, I 100% agree with what you're saying about feeling lonely, that it's such a common experience for us, even when we're within a family or surrounded by people. And what's coming to me is that this isn't just about the connections we're building with other people, it's about the connection we build with ourselves. And I am having all these wonderful conversations and making time for them, free of distractions, tuning into what they're saying, listening, closely. And I also was very intentional about learning about myself and the connection I have with me. So I guess as I go through this experience and this experiment and this adventure, I'm I'm building my connection with who I am and what I bring to the world. And when I meet people who I am so inspired by, and I'm in the same conversation with them, and I'm like, wow, is it possible that they're reflecting back to me something beautiful about myself? And that is sometimes harder for us to fully know our value. And that's what's driven me in my life without actually putting those words to it, is to know my worth. I was recording something yesterday, and it was this idea that people can tell us all the time our value. Like they can say, "Oh, you're, this and this," and all the beautiful things that people will say to you, and yet you don't believe it. Maybe you take selectively, you believe some of them. And so to me, this loneliness comes from not really wanting to fully be with ourselves. And what if the things that are being reflected back to us or said back to us, we receive them and we let them land, and we own them and we say thank you, so that we're not only strengthening a connection with the person across the room or the table or the Zoom with us, but we're strengthening the connection with ourselves.
Yeah, I'm so glad you brought that up. It is incredibly important. And you're absolutely right. If we are unable to connect with ourselves, it's going to make connections with others challenging. And, I love how you said that, people may say things to us, compliment us or tell us great things we're doing or great things about ourselves. If we don't believe them, they're not true. So I'm really glad you brought that up, the importance of connecting with self. And I think if you're someone who finds it hard to connect with others, then that's probably the first step, is just taking a minute. Maybe think about the 10 different people that you saw today, these, functional connections, so to speak. Maybe just think about, I liked being around that person. They're kind of funny. Or I didn't like this part of the day. Or, yeah, I really like when, you know, I get to meet with this group. That feels good. Just start asking yourself what you asked yourself, like, what lights me up? And you're leaning into that. I think it's really important for us to ask ourselves sometimes, what lights me up? Where am I in my day, in my life, where I feel like, oh, this is great. I love this. This is good. Where do you feel light? Where do you feel airy? Where do you feel joy? Think about that so that you know where to start leaning in. And as you get more in touch with that, you're going to open yourself up for the possibility for more connections that are beyond surface level. What do you think?
Yeah. I think knowing yourself is at the core of everything, honestly. And I don't always like being by myself. I feel like I need to be doing something, and that's shifted a bit, but sometimes I don't give my self permission to be myself. Like maybe that's not socially accepted and, acceptable. And what I'm also realizing is maybe what you're saying is just trusting yourself and your intuition and following what feels good and asking for more of that. And I have also realized that I've always said, oh gosh, I want really good friends. I want to spend time and do things and be active. And then when it comes to the end of the day, I'm like, I have good friends, but I spend time, my time is with my family. And so what I'm maybe realizing, I think, is that I have been a contributor to some of the lack of opportunities or experiences with friends. I have played a role in pulling back in certain situations, where also then, by knowing that, I can play a role in leaning in and shifting something that I am not happy with because I'm more aware. I'm not sure. I just speaking, does this resonate?
Now, I know totally what you're saying. And what it takes me back to is how we talked about how we show up to a connection. Yeah. So let's get back to the importance of connection. I mean, as humans, we are wired for connection. So what I would like to invite people to start noticing is what their daily connections look like. And are 95% of their connections kind of surface level, just functional, just for getting things done throughout the day so you can get through your day? And how many are meaningful? And just notice that. And then ask yourself, are there any of those that I would like to be deeper? Or are there new connections that I'd like to make that are more meaningful, that are separate from all these other functional things that I have to do? So I'd like to put that invitation out there, just sort of help people start increasing their self-awareness.
Yeah. And we're talking about this. This started for a professional reason for me, but wow, is this so applicable and possible for a personal goal and desire for connection as well?
It's a really cool challenge, and I'm so glad that you shared it with me because I've loved learning more about it. There is great power in community, and the more we connect, the more opportunity there is to build community. So, anything I missed? Anything you want to add that you wanted
Yeah, I don't know
to
where it fits if you're like how much you do editing, but
do a lot?
I do want to say I have this sticky note and it said, what would I do if fear wasn't part of the equation? When reaching out to people or being in social settings, because of this personal challenge, I have initiated conversation sometimes when I wouldn't have otherwise. I have asked people, and I'll say, "Hey, I'm doing this thing. In some situations, that's appropriate. Would you be open to scheduling a time just to meet and get to know each other?" And it's also freed me when I have been in a like maybe a group setting to focus for me what's more important is rather than meeting multiple people, like freeing myself and giving myself permission to spend time longer with individual people. So if that's helpful to anyone, it's been helpful to me. It's like hey, you don't have to network across the whole. I mean, that's not how I do things anyways. I like deeper relationships, but it's also been like this is your way of doing things and deeper connections are the way you do things. So you're in a networking event. If this is a professional situation, it's okay to talk to one person this whole night
Yeah.
because that's for me personally more valuable than surface level for a whole bunch of people. So there's things that will come up, fear, anxiety, scheduling, all these things that come up. But I hold this in my head now. And when I'm in certain situations, I'll be like, okay, Jill, you just got to do it. The worst they can say is no. It's an invitation. Would you like to connect? Most people are saying yes because the investment is low. And the investment is that they're going to get to tell their story. Maybe I have someone who will be supportive for them. Maybe I can make an introduction. There's this mutual benefit that comes in a relationship building process.
Yeah, absolutely. And I like how you said that the investment is low. I think that can help take some of the fear away too when you're connecting with someone new or you get invited to connect and you're like, "Oh, I'm not sure." But drop the expectation and then the investment is low.
Until you
May,
meet again and again, and that's a choice that
yeah.
you'll make in the moment.
Yeah, I think this could go in all different directions and we could probably talk for another hour. But I'm going to wrap it up. Jill, I know all the ways to contact you, so I'm going to put all that in the show notes. So if anybody wants to reach out and be one of your connections, they can do that.
Yes, yes. And I am a coach, but if something resonates with you, I'm not going to charge you. If something you listen to this and you're like, wow, I want to be one of your 100 connections, I will be overjoyed to make that happen. So
Yeah.
reach out if there's something that resonates with you. And then there's a part of you that feels a little afraid to reach out. Tell that part of you it's okay and do it anyways. And we'll just see where it goes.
Yeah. Let's just see where it goes. Open to possibilities.
Mhm.
Well, thanks, Jill, for hanging out with me again for another super cool conversation.
Well, thank you. I have really appreciated being able to share my journey with you and with your listeners in case there's something here that resonates with them and helps them on theirs.
Yeah, thank you. And for everyone listening or watching, you are enough just as you are, and you are loved. Make a great day. Hey, before you go, if you enjoy The Human Show, you can help me spread the word by sharing it and leaving a review. Thank you.